Hey y'all, it is February the 27th, 2018, and if you happen to hear the bells that are in the background, these bells go on for many, many minutes, and I waited for them to stop, but they won't stop. Here's the thing. I came to the library today to look for a strong Wi-Fi signal in which I could deliver a live stream, which I think would be the most beneficial. I realize that from the car I can't do it because the signal isn't strong enough. I could do it from in the library, but you're not supposed to talk very loudly in the library. So that plan actually had to be put on the back burner at least for right now, and so right now we go to plan B. Plan B is that I shoot this video and record it, and then I walk into the library and I upload it in a place where I'll have high speed, and I'll be able to upload this video, and not only that, but several other videos at a time. I have a lot of videos that you have not seen yet, all right, because I just cannot upload them fast enough. All right. So I'm here right now to bring to you all sort of information that I have that, like I said, that I have not shared with you yet because I haven't uploaded it. And I'm pushing this video right to the front just so that you understand. We're dealing with a very, very serious situation on our hands right here. All right? And I guess just to spoil what I'm about to say, from what I understand, we have a situation in which a boy who there is no evidence against him, there is no eyewitnesses against him, all sort of questions have not been answered, and meanwhile his life and livelihood hang in the balance. All right. I want to describe for you a situation which is kind of quite clear. It's probably clear to lots of y'all that 99% of people in America already think this boy's guilty, period, or at least they're running with it. And I'm talking about left and right. I'm talking about everybody. I'm talking about the president of the United States is saying, oh, this boy's definitely guilty. However, like I said, y'all, I don't know what evidence the president gets. I don't know what evidence everybody else gets. I don't know how the media is getting their evidence or whatever. But the thing is, I have seen none yet. I've seen none. And I want to just emphasize that none. I've been watching for days. I've been watching all sort of testimonials. None. I've seen none that put Nick behind a gun ever. See, here's the thing about it. There very well may be and should be video surveillance, showing you what exactly happened, but we're not seeing the evidence. Nobody's giving us the evidence. All the so-called evidence we've been given mainly constitutes of these cell phone videos in which you do not never see who is shooting, right? And I almost don't even know where to start. I guess we're going to start at the beginning and see if we can't cover everything play by play. You got to understand, I know the evidence that you've been given, all right? I already know the evidence that's out there because I've been staring at it and tweaking on it for days now, all right? But I want to explain for y'all that, of course, there's people on both sides want to find this boy guilty. You got people on the supposed left, they think he's guilty and they want to ban guns. You got people on the right and they think this boy is guilty and they think he might be a wind-up toy by the government. Now, like I've already established, yeah, sure, there's definitely wind-up toys by the government. They've been doing that for a long, long time, but is this the case here? Is this the case? All right. I guess let's just start play by play because here we're trying to figure. We want evidence, right? Not being given it, and I want you to note that the public's not being given evidence, not in the least bit. All right, but I want to explain to you what supposedly happened from all sort of different sources that I've been looking at. What supposedly happened is we got Mr. Nicholas Cruz. He shows up. He shows up at a high school in which technically he don't belong because I believe he's in a GED program. I don't know if it's at the high school. Maybe it is. Maybe that's why it would make sense that he's at the high school. All right, because he was in a GED program. But he shows up. He takes an Uber. to the school. And I mean, this is record. This is what's been told to you. This is the evidence, so-called evidence. He takes an Uber to the school, in which he proceeds to go into one of the buildings, I guess the freshman building. He then very immediately and abruptly, he gets into the stairwell, I guess, to, I guess, prepare. And then he starts shooting people up. All right, immediately. According to the LA Times, I seen their article, they put it out on the 15th. According to the LA Times, this is exactly what happened. And you'll know that, first of all, nothing about what I'm going to tell you about any of this evidence is going to add up. Just trust me when I tell you. But they say he goes up into the school, onto the first floor, into the stairwell, and then he comes out guns a-blazing on the first floor. Mind you, meanwhile, I want you to note, this is a vicious killer. He's off the leash, right? Or maybe he's just a robot, a stooge that the government set up. He's a wind-up toy, okay? All right, let's go with that. Nick, he goes out on the first floor, starts shooting up everybody just immediately. All right, he remains in the hallway. All right, he remains in the hallway. He never, ever, ever decides to go into a classroom and be discovered by one of these cell phone footages. None of these cell phones ever show who the shooter is. All right, so he stays in the hallway and he shoots everybody up. You'd imagine a murderous person on a rampage would just barge into one of the rooms. And he would kick the door down and start shooting people in the face. Like, that's what he would want to do. But no, he never does that. Notice that he never does it. He stays in the hall. And note one thing about a hall is interesting. Everybody's being taught when someone's shooting, go into your room, lock the door, close the door. Meaning all the vantage points are taken away. You have someone in the hall shooting. The only people who are going to see you are the people whose face is at the damn window like this. And guess what? You'll shoot at their face. You understand there are no witnesses now. Whoever the shooter was very careful that there were no witnesses. You understand? Very careful. And they weren't concerned about their murderous rage so much as they were concerned about not being seen. All right, the LA Times would tell you that this little boy, he did not have the time enough to put on armor and a helmet. He did not have the resources because an Uber driver would have seen the armor and the helmet and all that. He would have seen like a rifle case and all that. All right, so they're telling you that he went up in there to the school. He started shooting up. He did not have enough time to put on armor and a helmet. He did not have those resources. However, I have already seen a teacher tell you, a female teacher say, the guy who was shooting, I thought he was a police dude. He was all decked out. He was all decked out in armor and everything else, and a helmet and a mask and everything else. You understand that Nick didn't even have enough time to do this. All right, so at the very least, what we've come to the conclusion is, unless these eyewitnesses are lying, to include Alexa Miednik, to include a Hispanic girl who I'm having trouble finding now, unless they're all lying about this, about what they've seen, at the very least, we have more than Nick as a shooter. We have two shooters, at the very least. Now, meanwhile, this kind of fact would be so easy to know upon surveillance if there was more than two shooters. It would be well easy to know way before 2 weeks. And it has been 2 weeks. Nobody's told you nothing about a second shooter. So it's already established that people are heavily lying. Some people are heavily manipulated and misled. But there are some people out there who have to be heavily lying. The biggest person, the most obvious, would be Sheriff Israel, wouldn't it? Somebody that Roger Stone himself vouched for the other day. And Roger Stone vouched for this man so vehemently that I can't help but wonder about that. But anyways, Sheriff Israel, all right, he has to be heavily lying in this, because we know for a fact, according to witness testimonial, that there had to be two shooters if Nick was in fact a shooter. All right, so Sheriff Israel definitely is lying, period, all day long. And not only that, he's totally dropping the ball in every regard on this investigation. He's dropping every single ball that he can find. He's dropping it. So you got to wonder, well, why is that? And then, you know what I'm saying? You do have to understand that nobody, I repeat, nobody, 0 people on Earth, to include David Hogg, have identified the shooter as Nick while he was shooting, not anybody. In fact, some people are very careful to not at all say that Nick definitively was the shooter. Now, they can be coaxed into saying something that sounds like it, but no, they never say, I saw Nick, I saw his face, he was shooting, I know it for a fact because I seen him. They can't, because remember, the shooter was in the hallway. All right, the shooter was making sure that nobody was seeing him at all. Even in his murderous rage, he did not ever enter a classroom. What he did was he went to the stairwell after shooting up all sort of people on the first floor, according to the LA Times. And then he shot someone, in between the second floor and the third floor. And then he went to the third floor. And I don't know if he shot anybody up on the third floor exactly, but the LA Times says at this point, Nick, he drops his bag and his stuff to include his rifle. The one and only rifle that is ever mentioned in this case. The one and only one. Even though there's two shooters, and there's definitely two shooters, the one and only rifle that was ever mentioned, Nick leaves it in the staircase on the third floor. And a backpack. All right? Mind you, if you were on a murderous rage, I just want to impress this upon you. If you were in a murderous rage and you were plotting all this out and you were scheming all this out, I want to ask you a question. Would you start on the third floor and then make your way down to the bottom floor and make a run for it? Or would you start on the first floor, go to the second floor whereby you're kind of trapping yourself, go up to the third floor and trap yourself even more, leave all the evidence on the third floor so that you can easily be found, and then run your ass down the stairs to the first floor and get out with everybody? None of it makes sense. And when you include the testimonial of Alexa Mitnick, who a lot of people think she's lying, but the thing is, you haven't heard not a peep from her. She's being threatened. Her whole family's being threatened. That much I can guarantee you, to shut the hell up. All right, because Alexa's testimony does not jive with the LA Times and their little sequence of events. It really doesn't, because during the shots, and all the shots took place within 7-8 minutes. During the shots, she saw Nicholas and talked to Nicholas. All right, do you really think that adrenaline wouldn't be pumping to the point that she would know that something is up with Nick? It seems like he's in the middle of murdering 17 people. You see how that's impossible? It's really impossible. And might I point out, if Nick was somehow a wind-up toy and they got him to participate in the shooting, it's extremely unfair that someone was fully decked out in all armor and Nick wasn't. Isn't that extremely unfair? You figure Nick would be a little bit upset about that. But the fact is, somebody else had complete full armor. And none of this makes sense, you understand? Like I said, Sheriff Israel, is lying, and it's completely in your face lying. Not only that, he is wanting to take away your rights. He's very boisterous about it. So he is absolutely lying. You gotta ask yourself, how far do these lies go? Because I know for a fact that nobody watching this video has ever seen an eyewitness say they saw Nick and they saw him shooting, period, and they know, and they'll take it to court. And they'll swear on the Bible. There isn't no witness. There isn't no evidence. If there is footage, and there is, then it would show exactly what happened at the shooting. Not only that, we still haven't seen the Subway footage. We still haven't seen the Walmart footage. We still haven't seen the McDonald's footage. There's all sort of evidence that's not being shown. We never talked to that Uber driver at all, even though he took an Uber, and that witness would be it would be a good thing to talk to him, wouldn't it? Because he could let us insight on this murderous killer and the murderous rage that he was about to be in. The Uber driver would do that. Not only that, very easily, and try denying this, we have the technology to get anybody's phone history, period. All right. In fact, they mentioned a text in which he sent his foster brother and was talking about, oh, dude, I have something to show you. I don't know if you recall this, but they even mentioned a text that he sent to his foster brother and said, hey, look, I got something to show you. And his foster brother was like, what are you talking about? And he was like, dude, it's nothing bad, bro. Anyways, I'll see you later. They made mention of those text messages, but they're not going to make mention. They're not going to expose his whole phone history. No, they're not, because that would simply show that Nick was probably coaxed into even arriving at the high school that day. We know that he didn't even plan to go to school that day. Why? Probably because Valentine's. Why? Probably because he's all alone and he doesn't want to go to school on Valentine's. He was coaxed into coming to the high school. By who? I can't tell you who. I don't know. Might have been the same person who could have very well been pretending to be Nicholas on the internet. As you know, Nicholas was a very violent troll. As you know, that is extremely hard to prove that somebody else wasn't doing that. And as you know, it would be completely and absolutely utterly retarded for someone to go on the internet and make violent threats as a troll while using their government name and also making sure to hide their face. That's so stupid. It does not make sense. I know, none of it does. All right, so you got to ask yourself, all right, we got Sheriff Israel, and obviously he hates America. He hates Americans. He's very incompetent. And a lot of his deputies, and they're talking about that, a lot of his deputies are very incompetent. And a lot of his deputies are, in fact, cowards. Now, I've already addressed this, but you got to understand, Sheriff Israel is lying no matter what. No matter what else we find in this, Sheriff Israel is definitely lying. So this guy is the one telling you that Mr. Scott Peterson was a coward and he stood down for 4 minutes. And Sheriff Israel is the same guy telling you he has no idea. 2 weeks after the fact, he has no idea where his deputies were at. He has no clue 2 weeks after the fact. So yes, he is lying very, very much. You got to ask yourself, well, would he or would he not throw Scott Peterson under the bus? All right, because you haven't heard not a peep from Scott Peterson since he's been accused of what he's been accused of. You haven't heard not a peep from none of the deputies saying, oh yeah, I mean, I was standing down, but that's because this and that reason. Even though other police departments seen stand down. You know, other students saw multiple officers, all sort of deputies standing down. A lot of people don't understand this. Well, here's the thing about it. They'd already had a fire drill that day. They'd already been having these damn drills about all the kids line up and get shot up and down. And we might discuss that in a second. But they'd already be having that. How much do you want to bet that somehow in this mix, Scott Peterson was led to believe that this was a drill? And he was also led to believe that maybe he should just stand down in the drill because all of this is a drill. How much you want to believe? How much you want to bet that all those other deputies that you're talking about were also told it was a drill? All right, and not even to mention, or I guess we are going to mention, the fact is that EMTs were told to stand down. And see, all the whole story starts to come together. EMTs were told to stand down from police officers. And they say quite clearly, these EMTs, although they had to do it in anonymity because they're scared for their lives, these EMTs are saying, dude, we needed those children. They were dying in there for almost an hour. They were dying. If the police really thought that the EMTs weren't safe to go in the building, they should have taken the victims and dragged them out of the building. Period. End of the day. But what you have is a story in which the police just, I guess the ones who stayed in the building, they didn't let nobody else in the building. And they left all these children who potentially some of them could have lived, they left them to die on the floor. There's all sort of things that they could have done to save maybe some of these children and the teachers. Nothing. They did nothing. They told everybody to stand down. That's what you're seeing. And then you have a shooter who made sure to stay concealed. He was in all sort of a mask and armor and everything. People testified to it. All right. You have a shooter in there and you have no surveillance. Because you haven't been given it. By who? Sheriff Israel. He's dragging his feet like nobody's business. All right, you have all these things, and you have a boy who's been convinced in the general public that he's guilty even without, I guarantee you haven't seen proof. I guarantee it, because I've been looking for it for days and days now. Nothing. All right? Isn't it very interesting? Isn't it very interesting what we're saying? I want to make sure not to miss anybody like a David Hogg, for example, who, actor or not, he kind of doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. If you were to talk to his schoolmates, they tell you he's very impersonal. He's that kind of a guy. His father is FBI. His father was on like evidence response teams in the FBI, if that makes any sort of sense to you. His mother is like some sort of Democrat, like, you know what I'm saying? He's very anti-gun. He's been anti-gun for a long time. A lot of these testimonies, as you know, don't even hardly make no sense. As far as from the little kids, the ones who are blocking bullets with their textbooks, those don't make no sense. There's all sort of things that don't add up. You understand? Meanwhile, like I said, 99% of America at large has been convinced this boy has done what there's no proof. There's no proof that he did. Not only that, you have people, and I want to stress this, you have people who are definitely contemplating and advocating for the death penalty. We haven't even gone to trial. And they're doing this on television. And that's what I'm trying to get at to y'all. Because when you consider this whole drill, when you consider the drills that they have, I mean, whether or not this was a drill, obviously people seem to have gotten killed, all right? When you consider all the drills that they have and you look at them and study them, because you could see them on the internet, it was covered by ABC News and stuff. The type of drills that they have, basically, it's like a ritual. It's like a ritual. It has nothing to do with safety because, of course, children are much easier to kill when they line themselves up and curl up into balls and just wait to be killed. Obviously, that is the policy. So what you're looking at is rituals. Every time they even have a drill where nobody gets killed, that is a ritual. Now, what you're seeing right now is an even bigger ritual because it seems as though people died. And not only that, we have a guy, a little young boy, who's been offered up for sacrifice. All right? And I know these words are real creepy, and I know, oh, shoot, I'm insane now. I know that. But the thing is, he's been offered up by sacrificing this major ritual. That's the most logical conclusion when you figure out that there ain't no evidence against him, nothing. The person who looks the person who looks most implicated would be Sheriff Israel. And the thing is, you might want to keep an eye on Sheriff Israel because I got a feeling he won't live to see 2019. You take that for what you will. I'm not going to do anything bad to Sheriff Israel. I hope he lives a long, long time. But the thing is, it's not looking good for him. Because, you know, the Sheriff Israel ain't going to be at the tip top of this here scheme. You understand that, right? Sheriff Israel was only hired on in this particular situation to do the cover-up. He wasn't running shit. So you're going to see a Sheriff Israel majorly disappear because they can't have him around. But he doesn't even know that yet. He thinks he's going to ride this. All right? That's what I'm trying to say. It's a sacrifice because, like I said, 99%, like I said, of America has agreed, no, this young boy's a monster. Oh, he's a wind-up toy or something like that. Put him in jail forever. You know what I'm saying? Kill him off. I don't know. The government said to do it. As Sheriff Israel, the only person to ever identify the shooter in the world, either Sheriff Israel or one of his deputies, the only people who are known for lying all to your face and trying to take away your rights, they're also trying to tell you this young boy's guilty. All right, with no evidence. The American people are buying into it. They're calling for his death. Now, thing is, of course, I would never legitimately compare Nicholas, a young boy who I don't know, to Jesus Christ, but you understand the correlation, right? We have a situation where nobody, I repeat, nobody has evidence against Nick, and yet still people are calling for his head. All sort of people in a country where you're supposed to be innocent before proven guilty, and this boy hadn't even had a trial yet. People go out, the fact is, oh yeah, he confessed. Oh, can you show me where he did? Can you give me like a videotape? Can you give me a videotape of him talking about anything these days? No, you can't. No, you can't. And I do want to explain, shoot, you know how the situation usually goes in this situation? The situation usually goes, you come up to the small, terrified boy who has no idea what's going on. You say, hey, look, we got you for murder. We do. In fact, the American people are calling for your head right now, dude. In fact, you know what? You should probably plead guilty, because if you do plead guilty, at least they can't kill you. Young boy, what do you want to do? What do you want to do, young boy? Do you want to go risk the fact that these people want to kill you? And basically, we know you did everything and stuff. You're guilty. You're guilty. So just let us say that you're guilty, even though we don't got proof. Not at all. You understand that that's exactly what happened? And that's actually extremely typical. And nobody is going to hear from Nick Cruz. I just want to end up this video on this note. Nick Cruz may very well be completely innocent, and if he is, because he had no motivation. I repeat, zero motivation. In fact, he stood to gain quite a sizable inheritance if he just did nothing. All right, so he had the opposite of a motivation. All right, this young boy had the opposite of a motivation. He might have been misunderstood. You know what I'm saying? People might have described him as quirky or kind of weird. I know I saw Brody's testimony. Oh, he was a weird, crazy boy for throwing rocks at squirrels, even though he didn't even have a dad to raise him up. He didn't have a dad to raise him up, so he's a murdering, torturing dude just because he threw rocks at squirrels, something that used to be commonplace in America and stuff. People have sold him down the river. People have thrown him under the bus simply because of hearsay that people have said. Oh, I think he's crazy. Oh, I think this. Oh, I think that. Oh, I think he used to beat on his girlfriend. Even though you're not going to get testimony from his ex-girlfriend. Not at all. You still haven't seen it. Oh, I think he used to beat on his ex-girlfriend. Oh, the police came to his house. It might have reminded you he was a child. So a child really can't help very much if the police come into their house all the time. Mind you, there is no context. You're not going to get context. You could easily get context because it is documented. You can get all sort of context, but they're not giving it to you. All these times the police visited his house, you have no context as to why they were visiting his house. You have no testimonials from the officers who were visiting his house. Nothing. You have nothing. You have absolutely nothing except for what the television has been expecting you to accept. All right. Meanwhile, they're basically drooling and salivating at the idea of maybe putting this boy in a damn electric chair. All right. This is exactly what you're dealing with at this point. Until I get more evidence, I don't have no evidence. I don't have none. All right. I have all sort of different factors that I may even be forgetting at this point. Like I said, he stood to gain an inheritance. Like I said, you got some lady who Baker's acted his younger brother, a younger brother who, by the way, proves that Nicholas Cruz could have had nothing to do with white supremacy or all the bullshit that was made up about him. From the media. The media was like, oh, I think he's a white supremacist. Oh, you know what? I think his half brother is half black. Dude, I'm tired of y'all. I've been tired of it with the media, and they're drooling and they're salivating at, ooh, we want blood. Oh, we're thirsty for blood. No, I'm tired of it. All right? We don't have evidence. That's the thing about it, you know, it's gotten so complicated that people will bypass that whole thing. You gotta understand, people on the right who are concerned about, you know, their rights and everybody else's rights in America and gun rights, they're being made to bypass that fact that we still don't know at all. We have no evidence that he did it. They're jumping to, oh man, they're trying to grab our guns. Yeah, they are. They absolutely are trying to grab our guns. But at the same time, we don't have any evidence on this young boy. All right? We don't have any sort of evidence. He doesn't have no motivation. There's a lady, like I said, committed his younger brother just like the day after Baker's acted him, committed him to an insane asylum so that maybe she could have access to his inheritance, perhaps. You know what I'm saying? Is this news to anybody? Right? Not only that, just to be obvious, you know what I'm saying? If you look at her pictures, she's a middle-aged lady and stuff, and more than likely she did have sexual relations. I don't want to go too off in the weeds, but more than likely she did have sexual relations with one of these boys. You know what I'm saying? Probably the younger brother that she just committed in order to get his money. She probably was all up into doing that and stuff. More than likely, I mean, look at her pictures. You want to tell me that she probably wasn't a cougar or something like that? All right, then. There's so many people who are incriminating themselves more and more and more each day. There's so many more people who are absolutely incriminating themselves. And at the same time, they're going to be the same people who call for this young boy's blood. And they're going to be the same people who call for your guns too. All right, it's a major conspiracy over the American people, but it's also a major ritual sacrifice that's being done in everybody's face. Now, if I'm completely wrong about this whole situation and the people I've implicated, if I'm completely wrong, I hope that I am. I 100% hope that I am. Because right now I've been tweaking for days, and I can't even stop thinking about it or investigating it. And if I find out that I'm wrong, well, the blessing in that is that I won't have to do this anymore. I won't have to point out the obvious of the fact is nobody has evidence. And we got a little boy sitting in jail and you got to understand, if I was in his shoes, if I knew everything that I know, and I was in his shoes right now, I would strongly be considering suicide. Strongly. I have 99% of America who found me guilty without a trial already with no evidence. All right, I'm in a very bad way. I could end up in a damn hole forever, or I could end up killed before the year is out. All right, that's the situation we have this young boy looking at, and we do need to maybe start groups. Either we get some sort of evidence, which we haven't gotten 2 weeks later, or we starting groups to make sure that Nick knows that he ain't alone in this, because right now he is alone in this. Right now he's very much alone in this. And we as a people can't just leave him alone. We don't have evidence to convict him. Okay, we just can't point our finger and yell, there's the monster, how about we kill him? And that's what's being done right now. Anyways, I want anybody and everybody to holler at me, let me know your information. I want to be proven wrong here. If I'm not, I have no choice but to continue on with my Free Nick Cruz campaign and stuff. So I'll holler at y'all. There's definitely going to be more videos, and I'm sure there's a lot of details that I forgot to even mention. All right, so I'll be in close contact with y'all. No, I'm not trying to commit suicide and stuff like that. Just to let y'all know, YouTube is absolutely being censored, and I have all sort of evidence to prove it. All right, but if you think that it's time to get scared because they're coming after us, nah, it's time to just put it in their face, because there's thousands and thousands and thousands of people out there who are not having their voice heard, who think just like me, who've not found this boy guilty yet, and they're waiting for evidence. So, no, we're out there, and guess what? If there's a conspiracy, just like it looks like, y'all can't kill all of us, all right? Come kill me today. People already seen my video. You kill me today. If I wind up dead for any reason, trust me, and I'm not worried about it, but if I did, you already know that this video is going to go everywhere, huh? All right, no, justice is going to be had. Justice is going to be had, and guess what? What we figured out, amongst other things, is the sheriff's department and everything else, they ain't even worth a lick, dude. They can't even save you. At the very least, they're going to stand down while y'all get murdered up in a school, while y'all still send your children to school. Meanwhile, what this is proving to everybody is the public at large on the internet is so much more efficient. It's like 1,000 times more efficient than any sheriff's department who keeps bullshitting, who hasn't given us details 2 weeks later. We're proving that we are better than these sheriff's departments. We do have more resources. We do have more feet on the ground and stuff like this. We can get the job done way better. Meanwhile, we're letting sheriff's departments still do terrible jobs. And also we're having drills in our schools, which are basically rituals in which we have children line up to get shot in the dark like some coward chickens who have no idea what to do, just standing there, sitting there for a whole hour at a time, waiting to get shot and killed because they had no idea what's going on. They're not being prepared. In fact, they're being the opposite of prepared. All right. You know, y'all, I could reiterate a lot of stuff that I've been saying and stuff, but I'm going to just leave it at that. And whatever questions you have, please email me and give me some comments and stuff. Give me some input. I'm going hard in the paint, y'all. I can't stop and I won't stop. It's February the 27th, 2018. Holler at me.